Hello and welcome. Today we are going to dive into the first part of our series on the wonderful world of crazy quilting. I'm Jacque and I am excited to show you how to make a stunning crazy quilt from start to finish. So let's get started by collecting our supplies so we can get started on creating this wonderful quilt. Just create with fabric and floss. First off, you're going to need a variety of scrap fabrics in different colors, textures, and patterns. Traditional crazy quilts often use luxurious fabric like silk, velvet, satin, but can be used of any scraps you have on hand. Next, you're going to need foundation fabric. Choose a sturdy fabric such as the foundation for your crazy quilt. Muslin and cotton fabric work well for this purpose. Also, if you have a fabric that came in a bundle and you're like, what am I going to do with this? This is ugly fabric. Use that fabric as your foundation since it's not going to be seen at all. Next, pick your batting. Batting is the material that provides insulation and loft to the quilt. Select the batting that suits your preference in terms of thickness and warmth and for the size of your quilt. The next thing that you need to gather is embellishments. Crazy quilts often feature decorative elements that enhance their visual appeal. Consider adding embroidery thread, some lace, some ribbon. We have satin, glitter, velvet, organza, some rope. Then we have different sizes of satin. All kinds of different ribbon. So choose what you would like. You have yarn, some beads. I have an assortment here. Maybe some rickrack. This is some velvety rickrack, but you can get some satin. Here I have some gems, maybe some little sequences. Or you can even get sequins in shapes. And of course, our big selection of buttons. And you can use any other kind of an embellishments that you find that are appealing to you and will fit in with your quilting fabrics. And of course, you're going to need your sewing machine. While you can hand sew a crazy quilt, using a sewing machine will make the process faster and more efficient. You're also going to need obviously your sewing needles and your thread. You need to have a variety of sewing needles, including for your machine and for embroidery, needles and sharp needles for the different types of stitching. Make sure you have the thread that matches or complements your scraps of fabric. You're going to need scissors. You're going to need fabric scissors for cutting your fabric scraps. You're going to need embroidery scissors for trimming threads and working with intricate details. And then I also have my snippets that I use for just about anything else. You're going to need a marking tool. What you know, my favorite is the friction pin. You use the marking fabric tool to mark guidelines or patterns on your fabric if you desire. You're going to need pins. Pins keep I always keep this supply of pins near my sewing machine to hold my fabric pieces together before I start sewing. And then, of course, your seam ripper. You always have to have at least one Jacque the Ripper by your machine because you never know when you're going to need it. You're also going to need embroidery hoop. And they are useful for holding the fabric taut while you're working on the embroidery stitches after we do all the piecing together. You're also going to need your cutting mat, a ruler. You can use a straight edge ruler, or I have at a quarter plus a ruler, and I will link it down in the description below, and a rotary cutter. These tools are handy for precise fabric cutting if you prefer using the rotary and a ruler over scissors. And then you're going to need an ironing board or pressing surface with your iron. Pressing the fabric pieces is essential for achieving a neat and professional looking seam. And you'll press at each time, so you want to make sure you have it handy by you. So these are the basic supplies you will need to get started with creating a crazy quilt. Remember that a crazy quilt is versatile and creative technique, so feel free to adapt and modify the supplies based on your preference and artistic vision. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you learned something from this video, maybe give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you can see the rest of the videos for this series. I do not know how many it's going to be at this moment, but we're going to go step by step on making a crazy quilt. So be sure to check out the playlist coming up on screen now that will give some more embroidery and quilting techniques. And on screen now is also a video that YouTube feels that you may be interested in. Until then, happy stitching, my friends.